Welcome to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. And now, it's time for our story. Once upon a time, there was an alligator gar named Cannon. Cannon the alligator gar lived in the rivers and lakes around the swampy bayou. Cannon was a curious and laid-back fish. He loved swimming lazily around the lake, occasionally darting quickly to catch his prey with a burst of speed. But despite his ability to catch his food really fast, Cannon was not known for swimming fast at all, especially for long distances. He preferred the calm and gentle movements of his everyday life. On one sunny afternoon, as Cannon the alligator gar was gliding through the waters, he noticed a strange sight. A group of fish were frantically swimming in the same direction, almost like they were swimming away from something. Cannon the alligator gar approached a passing by bass and asked, "Hey, why is everyone in such a hurry?" The bass, wide-eyed with fear, replied, "There's a tornado in the sky. It's tearing through the land and ripping up trees and houses. When it reached the lake, it started whipping up all the water, and some of the fish are being thrown around. Look, there's one flying up in the air." Cannon looked up and saw a bass flying in the air and being thrown and dropped into another part of the lake. Intrigued and a bit concerned, Cannon the alligator gar decided to investigate. He swam to the surface and was shocked by what he saw. It was a huge, swirling tornado hovering over the lake, spraying water everywhere. The powerful winds of the tornado had even opened up patches of dry ground at the bottom of the lake. Cannon the alligator gar had never seen the bottom of the lake dry before. This was serious. Cannon knew he had to get out of there fast. Despite his usual lazy and leisurely pace, Cannon mustered up all his energy and began swimming as fast as he could. But Cannon the alligator gar wasn't the fastest swimmer. Of course, he can eat his food quickly, but when it comes to swimming for long distances, he was pretty slow. But the tornado's fierce winds were getting closer and closer until the tornado caught him, and Cannon felt himself being lifted up out of the water and tossed high into the air. "Wait! Wait! Wait!" yelled Cannon as he was flying up into the air. He flew through the sky, tumbling and turning, until he landed with a thud on the ground, a little bit away from the lake, next to a river. Dazed and not really knowing where he was, Cannon the alligator gar realized he really needed to get back into the water. Though he could breathe air for a little bit, he felt much more comfortable in the water. And so, with all his might, he began moving towards the water, flipping and flopping, until finally he made a splashy entrance into the water. "Phew, this is much better in the water," said Cannon the alligator gar to himself. "Looks like I'm nowhere near that scary tornado." Relieved to be back in the water, Cannon swam around and started settling down from being thrown into the air and landing on the ground. And just then, as he was settling, he noticed a boat with fishermen nearby. The fishermen had spotted Cannon and were now trying to catch him, thinking he was an unusual but impressive catch. Cannon swam into a narrow opening next to a riverbank on the side of the river, hoping to find an escape. But then he saw the fishermen blocking his way out with their big boat. One of the fishermen said to the others, "Hey boys, Looks like we got ourselves a huge alligator gar. Another fisherman said, Quick, get the net. I think that gar's stuck in that narrow opening near the riverbank. There's only one way out, and we're gonna put our net right there at the exit. This should be an easy catch, boys. Trapped and unsure of what to do, Cannon the alligator gar felt anxious. He was just hit by a tornado that whipped him up out of his lake and dropped him on the ground, and now he was in a river and was about to get caught by some fishermen. What a day! Cannon thought to himself, maybe I can use my teeth and gnaw my way through that net that they put there. It's probably the only choice I really have. So Cannon the alligator gar set himself up to run right into the net and chew through the netting. It was a pretty bad idea, but it was his only choice at this time. And just as he was about to attempt to run into the net and chew through the netting, the fisherman suddenly started shouting and rowing away. Wowee! I've never seen one up so close, said one of the fishermen. Well, let's get up out of here so I can get home, fellas. And they pulled up their net and started rowing away. Cannon, who was confused, looked around to see what had scared them off. And to his amazement, he saw the tornado heading towards the river now. Cannon said to himself, Are you kidding me? Again? Is this tornado looking for me or something? The swirling tornado was even more terrifying up close. Cannon the alligator gar braced himself, and the tornado picked him up once again. Here we go again, said Cannon while being twirled through the air. And he flew higher and higher, and then the wind let him go. And he fell and fell and landed with a splash back in the same lake he was at before. And not too long after he came back into the lake where he was at before, the tornado and harsh weather died down, and Cannon floated to the surface of the water for a moment just to catch his breath. He was back where he started, but now he had quite the story to tell. And as he swam back to his favorite spot in the lake, he just couldn't help but chuckle at the crazy adventure he had just experienced. Back at the lake, Cannon's friends gathered around him. They were all shaken by the tornado, and they all wanted to know how everyone was doing. And so they all went around sharing how each swam or hid under some rocks or just swam fast away from the tornado. When it came to Cannon the alligator gar to share his tornado story with the rest, Cannon told them all about his wild ride through the air and his encounter with the fishermen and how the tornado kind of saved his life. As he was telling his story, his friends listened in awe, their mouths hanging open in amazement, and they were all listening intently. Cannon the alligator gar continued to tell his story about the part where he was trapped in the narrow opening in the riverbank and the fishermen were about to catch him. And he said to them, "And just when I thought it was all over, the fishermen for some reason got scared and they started to row away. And so I looked and it was the tornado again coming towards me. And then I was lifted up by the tornado again and landed right back here." After all the fish heard the story, they couldn't believe what happened to Cannon. It was unheard of. And the thought of a tornado flinging Cannon the alligator gar up in the air to the river and the same tornado lifting Cannon and bringing him back to the lake was such a funny thought. And so they all bursted out into laughter. And all the tension and all the fear from the tornado all began to melt away because of all the laughing. They were all glad that they were safe. And Cannon the alligator gar's tale became a legend among the fish in the lake. And eventually, all the animals in and around the lake would also retell the story every time a storm came around. And his story was passed down from generation to generation. And so, life returned to normal in the lake. Cannon continued to swim lazily through the rivers and lakes, enjoying the peaceful scenery. And every once in a while, he'd take a look up at the sky, and he would be reminded of the incredible adventure he had. And he learned that sometimes even the most unexpected events can turn into the most unforgettable stories. And the alligator gar lived happily ever after. The end. The alligator gar is a ray-finned fish that's closely related to bowfins, and it's the largest species in the gar family. Gars are a group of ray-finned fish that live in fresh and brackish waters, mainly around North America, Central America, Cuba, and in the Caribbean. Gars are fish that have elongated bodies and have elongated jaws with sharp teeth. Gars are sometimes known as gar pike, but they're not related to pike at all. And the largest gars are known as alligator gars. The alligator gar is named alligator gar because of their resemblance to the alligator and a distinct wide snout and long sharp teeth that looks like an alligator's. Alligator gars have long slender bodies. Alligator gars are really big and can grow up to 10 feet long. Alligator gars can live up to 50 to 70 years, and some observing to be as old as 95 years old. They're usually dark green or brown on top and lighter underneath. Their eyes are small compared to their big bodies, but they can see very well to find their food. And their scales are very tough and bony, almost like armor, which protects them from predators. Alligator gars live in rivers, lakes, and swamps, and they prefer slow-moving water. You can find them usually in places like Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi in the United States. Alligator gars are slow swimmers, but can move fast to catch their food. Alligator gars can breathe air and survive up to 2 hours out of the water. So sometimes they come up to the surface to gulp air when they're in water that has low oxygen. Alligator gars like to sneak up to their prey and ambush them. They wait underneath the water surface until an animal comes close to them, and they move fast to snap them into their sharp teeth. Alligator gars eat fish, crabs, small birds, and any other mammals that might be floating on the surface of the waters. Alligator gars have very tough scales, which are hard and can be very sharp. Alligator gars are one of the oldest species of fish. Alligator gars, although they look scary, are not dangerous to humans. Except for their eggs. Alligator gars' eggs are poisonous if eaten by people or other animals. Alligator gars have elongated bodies with broad heads and short, broad snouts and large, sharp teeth with a double row of teeth on their upper jaws. For a long time, alligator gars were known as trash fish or a nuisance to sport fishers, and they were targeted for a long time. But by the 1980s, people had a better understanding of alligator gars and their importance to sustain the ecosystem and have been protected in many areas since. Have you seen a real-life alligator gar before? If you have, where did you see it? Thanks for listening to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, bye! If your child enjoys cats, drawing, or writing, you might also like my Everyday Cats Journals. They're a 4-book journal series, each with fun covers showing cats with human bodies doing silly and everyday things. Inside, kids can look for little objects from the cover that appear in the top corners of the pages and try to find them all as they write or doodle. The Everyday Cats journals are available on Amazon. You can find all the details in the show notes.